Hello everyone, today I'm looking at Pathologic Classic. So this is the very first Pathologic game. Pathologic 2 is technically like a remake actually of the same story, but told from a different perspective and from a different style of gameplay as well. In the original Pathologic, oh my god, I love this game, and I also kind of hate it because it's just very difficult to understand. We can play as three different characters in the original, the Bachelor, the Haruspex, or the Changeling. And so the Bachelor is kind of Dmitry something of, and so he's from the city, he's a doctor, and he comes to this small town in the countryside which has been infected with this deadly disease. And so his perspective is he needs to find a cure, some kind of medicine or ailment to essentially, fix the disease and cure it. The Haruspex, he is a surgeon and the son of one of the butchers or something in the town, and so actually no, that's his nickname. And so his father is murdered, and so he comes back to the village to investigate his father's death. And so his, approach to the, virus is to essentially find a way to cut it out of the body and, remove the organs. And he's more kind of the brutal, combat focused kind of playthrough, which is what the sequel focuses on. And the Changeling, which honestly I've never played as, is this strange woman who is able to shapeshift apparently into different people. I've never played her, so I don't know her story. But yes, Pathologic is a Russian video game that came out around 2004. And so it's been remastered a few times because the writing is absolutely astounding. I've never read something like this in my life, whether in a book or a game or whatever. The writing in Pathologic is absolutely just bizarre and strange and interesting. And what I've noticed about it generally is what makes it so fascinating to read is that they constantly are using metaphors like all the time in their speech. And sometimes they're berating you and you don't realize it until you finish reading the sentence. You're like, oh wait, no, he's making fun of me. And just really intense, well done writing. And so, yeah, you basically interact with a series of characters throughout the game. There are the Canes, who are kind of the family that live near the cathedral. There is, I forget his name, Olaf or Igor or something, who is kind of the main merchant guy who lives down in the city district. There is, there's the architect of the polyhedron. And so there are different sort of families, different sort of power structures that live around the city, as well as the general, populace and the poor people. And at the center of the town is, of course, the theater. And the theater is where there are plays that are being held at night. And so they tell these short stories. And all of the actors wear these black costumes with white masks. And there are also these strange ushers, I suppose, that wear these weird feathered beak masks and give you strange riddle questions and stuff like that. And sometimes you'll see these characters outside of the theater, which that there's a certain special story event going on, because the whole metaphor is that, this entire event is just like being in a play or in a theater, and you're just on the stage for a while. And so, yeah, you basically just need to talk to certain individuals, complete side quests and main quests, and find out how to solve and fix the disease, and also the ultimate choice you're going to take at the end of the game to determine the fate of the town. And it's funny, speaking about the theater, because yes, you can go and see these plays at midnight, but I did not have any time. Because the main thing about this game is that you are always on the clock and you move real slow. So like I was trying to get to as many people as possible, talk to as many people as possible, get supplies, all this stuff. And, to spend time going to the theater to see those little cutscenes, it's honestly not worth it at all, because you are so limited for time that you just don't have the opportunity to do so. And the other thing too is you need to sleep in order to recover from your thirst and hunger and your health also, because your hunger and thirst go up when you sleep, but your health also recovers, so it's a trade-off. Also on that, it's really interesting that at the beginning of the game, the disease hasn't really happened yet. And so when you go to a normal store, they have bread, milk, cheese, all this stuff, and it's all very cheap. But the second that the day begins that there is an infection, all of the price of normal items and food and products skyrocket. And suddenly no one can afford food anymore, and it's a super scarce material along with medical equipment. And so it's this really cool economy where things will scale and essentially they will get super, super expensive. And what you're supposed to do is essentially being able to trade certain items. The kids around the town have special items, and they will trade super rare items for little trinkets that you find around the place. Another option is, of course, to go into lawless or contaminated homes that have the disease in it and ransack them for food or for things you can trade in for money. And of course, the other last valuable object is, of course, weapons like handguns or knives or whatever. Those also become prohibitively expensive as well. So definitely one strategy of this game is buying as much food as you can on day one and then selling it the next day once the disease starts and make a killing. But then you're going to use that money to buy food anyway, so it's kind of a trade-off. So yeah, the basic structure of the game is that you go around talking to people, doing objectives. As the disease progresses throughout the town, it will infect different districts. What's very interesting is that the entire map of the town is divided into the aspect of a body. So like the southern part of the town is called things like the spleen, while the top part of the town is called the brain and the head. And then all the main, roads of the town are called, the arteries and veins and stuff like that. And so you basically have to, there is some combat. There are definitely burglars and people who will pursue you. This definitely is the age of PC gaming where they just did a bunch of reused assets and character models. So you know exactly who are the people who are going to attack you. You're going to spend a lot of time saving, and especially quick saving. And again, these enemies, sometimes they'll come up to you, so you really have to choose whether or not you want to go around them or fight them. Having the revolver is pretty much a power weapon. You can just aim it once and take them out. Usually it might take 2 bullets, but it's fairly reliable. And then you can take everything on their body. Also, as the disease progresses, different parts of the town will be infected, and there will be these clouds of disease which will come at you. And so, of course, some of the things you need to equip are, boots, gloves, mask, and like a hazmat coat, essentially. The technology is not super advanced. It's something more along the lines of the early 1900s in terms of what they have. The water gets infected, and so there's a whole side quest about getting clean water to the rest of the city, setting up a hospital. And the theater itself actually becomes a hospital / morgue for most of the people, which is pretty interesting / scary. And you have roughly 15 days or so to solve the disease and come to a conclusion on what should be done about the town itself. And so the second half of the game, or really the last quarter of the game, things really start to get streamlined. And basically the military is called in, and this military train arrives, and this inquisitor comes off the train. And so you kind of have to report to her and tell her what you think. And so she basically says we have 3 options in order to find out what to do with the town, which is either, they're basically there and say, we will shell the town and we will destroy the entire thing if it comes to that. And so again, you need to have evidence to find out where the disease is coming from. If you can destroy something else or cure it or do something else, that will solve the ending. And so in terms of the endings, I think there are 3 different endings for what you can do. And each one has a very different, kind of perspective as to what is worth sacrificing and what is worth saving. So yeah, this game is really a survival game, not exactly a horror game, in the sense that you are always low on resources, on food, health items, money, everything, and you need to be very tactful in terms of how what you sell, what you keep, who you negotiate with. And again, the story that reveals itself is just really, really interesting. Again, honestly, the biggest objective in this game is basically traversing the town and getting from point A to point B. There are no fast travel systems. You basically just have to walk through the town and go to where you need to go. And God forbid that there's an objective marker outside the town, because that's going to take you almost a quarter day to get there. And something else that Pathologic does very well is its atmosphere. I mean, this game's atmosphere is unmatched, I feel, and the music too. It just has this very weird, synthy, depressing soundtrack that's just very cool. And what I also love about it is the environment and the architecture is really surreal. It's just generally super, super odd and doesn't make any sense. And in fact, that's the point of definitely one of the main structures that is the main point of the game, which is the polyhedron. And the polyhedron is this giant device, essentially, or architectural thing that is on a curve and is made out of paper mache and mirrors or something. And basically the people say, yeah, there's no reason why this thing should exist. There's no architectural physical way it should be standing, but for some reason it's standing, and it's this weird miracle that is occurring in the town while also this disease is kind of happening. And so if you go up the polyhedron, I think they do it differently in the remake, but essentially the children say that something like there's an innumerable amount of souls that are being reflected within the polyhedron, and as many different possibilities and futures there are here, there are also within this structure itself. And it's this weird idea that the polyhedron is housing the soul of the town and of the people within it. And yeah, I don't know. It's never really fully clearly explained, but it's this very weird phenomena. And this entire town is a really strange, interesting place. Again, you're going to come across some of the weirdest dialogue, very interesting characters, very interesting character designs as well. There are these weird things called worms, which are these weird humanoid-shaped people that kind of talk and harass you and are kind of these hired thugs. There are also these steep women who are essentially born from the earth, and they basically try to seduce you and take stuff from you. Just really, really bizarre stuff. And they all have very interesting designs. And yeah, just the dialogue and the weird stuff. And they have these weird rituals out in you can go outside the town and you can actually go for a long time in the field, and sometimes you'll find something totally bizarre and strange. And so this one time I wandered outside of town just to see what was there, and I met this weird steppe creature that was like a living totem pole. And at first it attacked me, but the second time I encountered it, it actually was not hostile and talked to me. It was just really, really, really bizarre. This whole game is just really a wild ride. But the writing in it is really superb. I really, really enjoy it. It's really amazing to me. And of course, it has the other kind of aspect where you always are shuffling around garbage cans trying to, find stuff in there and resources. Also, there are these barrels around the town that have fresh water in them. And so as long as you have empty barrels with you, you can fill up on water and quench your thirst. Again, as time progresses, you really cannot save everyone, especially even in the remake. And so you just have to accept certain people will pass away, they will die. It's almost like Dead Rising. There's nothing you can do. And so you just need to focus on staying alive and helping save as many people as you can. And basically, near the end of the game, you do actually figure out a panacea and a solution to cure people. And the problem is that you need this one special thing, which honestly the children mostly have and have a monopoly on. And you need that object in order to craft multiple panaceas. And you have to choose who you give the cure to, over the course of the game. But yeah, there's this whole metaphor around how the town and the polyhedron, the town is the body of the body of the people, of the soul, and the polyhedron is the soul of the people, and children have gone missing, going inside it, and all this weird abstract nonsense. And I think in this game, it is in this game, you actually enter the polyhedron itself if you do the right route. But in the remake, you can't do it, and they have a different kind of meaning for what the polyhedron means in the sequel. But yeah, this is a highly abstract, really interesting game. God, my favorite thing is like you find these stairways that just lead to nowhere, and you can even interview the architect who holds himself up in his room, and so he's one of the main objectives in the story, where you have to talk to him and interrogate him what exactly the polyhedron is, and he says basically he doesn't even know to an extent. Anyway, this is a very abstract, weird, mind-bending game with, again, some of the best writing I've ever experienced in a game, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's definitely not for everyone. The game also is pretty decently hard, and it is easy to die. But you just kind of have to just accept that you're going to make mistakes and just kind of keep going through the game. That's all I can really say. Anyway, guys, I'll see you later. Bye.